Yesu. Oh, nele yoma, mato nawo. Nele yomude, mato nawo. Yoma, mato nawo. Manu afiade, mawodona Yesu. Manu afiade ne mawodo, manu afiade ne mawodo, manu afiade ne mawodo na peto. Awo manu afiade ne mawodo, manu afiade ne mawodo, manu afiade ne mawodo na Yesu. Stephanie Doc, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work, everything you do for the community, for the Black community. We're grateful to you, Stephanie. Stephanie. Black nurses, this is your time. I think we're grateful. We're grateful, very grateful. You see what you've done. You've given everything. You've given everything. Your life, your effort, sacrifice. All the insult you go through, but you're there. We know it. Thank you. Black nursing, thank you. This is Black History Month. We're marching on. We're going forward. All the sacrifices are going to pay off. Oh, yo, ma to now. Stephanie, yo, ma to now. Yo, ma to now.
Well, let me wish you a very, very good evening, a very warm welcome to a Salford City Black History Month celebration event. My name is Mike Shaft. I'm a broadcaster in the Manchester area, been here for quite a few years now. I actually live in Salford because it's just around the corner from Media City, which is also in Salford. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. I can hear the beeps, which tells us somebody else has joined. So a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Now, I'm not sure whether we've got the artwork demonstration. If not, we will go to the Chief Officer for Khan, Charles Kwaku Adoy, worked with Salford partners to plan and deliver on this program for Salford City. Charles, let me wish you a very, very good evening.
Good evening, Mike. I'm going to do the welcome and then we can have the art video.
Okay.
So the pleasure is mine to welcome you all to Salford City's Black History Month event. It's been a real pleasure to work with various partners, statutory and voluntary sector partners to, pull together this event. Black History Month, and especially in this year, is a time for us to celebrate and also ponder on the amazing contributions Black people have made to the wonderful city of Salford. Here in Salford, many of us have worked together, and we are so grateful for all our partners for making this event happen. So in recognition of Black History Month, our partners including Salford City Council, the Salford NHS Clinical Commissioning Group, the Northern Care Alliance, University of Salford, Warm Hearts UK, and other, Salford Black-led organizations have, put in their best. So we hope you're going to have a wonderful evening. And also on the behalf of the Caribbean and African community in Greater Manchester, I want to say thank you for, all you've done, as to all our partners for supporting this event. So this evening, you'll experience a snapshot of Caribbean and African culture. We will seek to showcase some incredible history and contribution of Caribbean and African people. And also it will be an opportunity to celebrate the richness of our heritage. So I want to end by saying, yes, we know 2020 has been a challenging one. It continues to be a challenging one. But in Salford, we know that the story is different. there's lots going on in Salford to support people of minority backgrounds so that they feel equal, they feel welcome. And that is why some of us are really excited and involved in the Salford Equality Strategy. So, welcome everyone. We hope you have a wonderful evening. We have a few apologies, but I'm sure Mike will mention that, in the course of the program. But the one I want to mention is from Councillor Rob Wilson, who's just had, his second child has arrived, but sadly they are in hospital and, there's restricted visiting time. So Rob can't be with us. Thanks, Mike. Over to you.
Charles, thank you very much indeed. And just on the point of apologies, we had an apology just in the last few minutes from the Salford City Mayor, Paul Dennett. And that's because of all the problems going on now with COVID and which tier we were in and all that kind of stuff. So he has had to carry on working. He sends his apologies, but we fully understand. We fully understand. So I mentioned we had this demonstration of artwork by Robert Falshau. He's an artist. And this next video presents a series of artwork by Robert and has been provided, very fantastic of them, by the Royal College of Nursing. Take a look at this. Absolutely wonderful pictures. And as you saw at the end, okay, those pictures are available to purchase. We will make sure we put that up later on in this event. Now, if you've just joined us, let me wish you a very, very good evening. This is the Salford City Black History Month celebration event, and my name is Mike Shaft. Messages are already coming in. If you'd like to send us a message, whatever it is, then you can in your chat box, okay? And we've got people monitoring the chat boxes, and they will let us know if it's something that requires an answer. And if it's something really good, then we'll give you a mention. Okay, so use the chat box, please, and do feel free to give us your opinions. Can we wish a very, very good evening now to the Chief Executive for Salford CVS, that's Alison Page. Alison.
Good evening, everybody. An impromptu appearance from me. I thought I was just going to be attending this evening and observing. So first off, just to say that, as Mike said, my name is Alison Page. I'm the Chief Exec of Salford CVS, which stands for Community and Voluntary Services. We are an organisation that's been around in Salford since 1919, so 101 years in various incarnations. Our job is to try and support our sector, so voluntary organisations, community groups and social enterprises, whether that's be with development support, grants, or making sure that our sector and communities have an opportunity for voice and influence. I'm really honoured to be asked to say a few words tonight. I think it's really, really important that we include all of our communities in the work that Salford CVS does and in our wider partnerships. I think we know that poverty and inequality is rife, and that's been exacerbated by COVID. But I think tonight is also about celebrating the fantastic culture and influence and history of Black communities in Salford, and we know that they go back a very long way. So I'm really pleased that we are working with a wide range of BME organisations and groups in Salford. I know that there's lots more to do, but I just really want to celebrate tonight and say thank you to those who have organised this fantastic event, a really good turnout. So congratulations to Charles and the team and everyone at Cairn. And I know that it's a big effort to do an event like this. And I think you are consummate at it now. And I wish you'd come and give us some tips at Salford CVS, because I think you do a really good job. And I just wanted to say, Mike Shaft, I am of the age, and I do remember you on Sunset Radio, Velvet Tones. So it's really good to have you host tonight. Really good to see partners here this evening. So just want to pay tribute and say we know that there's lots more that we need to do together to make a difference in Salford. But for now, I think this is fantastic testament to all the work of communities in Salford and a celebration of Black History Month. So I'll shut up now and thank you.
Alison, I'm not going to let you shut up yet. Listen, for somebody who's looking at this from somewhere else in the country and doesn't know Salford, give us a couple of minutes on Salford, please.
Well, it's an interesting place, Salford. I mean, we're talking Salford about Salford's firsts. So what I would just do is declare that I'm a Twin Cities girl. So my mum's from Salford, my dad's from Manchester, and I was actually born in Manchester. But I always say that my allegiance is to both cities. I think fantastic. We do acknowledge that Salford predates Manchester in many, many things, and is a city of first, so the first free public library and lots of other things. But I think what Salford is about partnership working. We know that we have got poverty and inequality in Salford, but the grit and determination and the character of Salford people, I think, is a joy to behold. And during COVID, we have really seen people come together. Professional voluntary sector organisations working really hard. Some of them are in the room today, and I think you know who I'm talking about. For instance, Citizens Advice, and Tom's here. I think community groups of all shapes and sizes have been doing a fantastic job, whether it's been around food parcels or supporting people with mental health issues, and the nature of volunteering. So I think when the chips are down in Salford, we see mutual aid in all its glory. But I think people in Salford love a laugh. They do celebrate arts and culture. we are a city which is over 60% green and blue space, and I think we're really proud of that. And I think that we are really all on board with the notion of creating not just Build Back Better, but creating a better, fairer and greener Salford. So I know I sound like a tourist information public announcement, but actually I do really believe in that. And I've just noticed there's a cute puppy, unintentional, over my shoulder. You can see a little calendar there, yeah. So that wasn't intentional because I wasn't expecting to say anything tonight. So thanks for that, Charles. But I think Salford is a place where I'm not saying there's no tensions and no problems, but I think people do want to live and work together. And I think we've got the right leadership in the city across all sectors to try and make sure that that happens. So yeah, proud of everything from the Lowry to obviously our rugby team tried valiantly at the weekend. Yeah. We're not going to say failed, but, you know, got nearer to the prize. And lots of other things in between. A lot of people in Salford think that Old Trafford, as in the football ground, is in Salford, and think that the boundaries moved slightly. So apart from the fact that Salford does not include Manchester United, I think everything else is rosy.
But it does include Salford City.
It does, indeed.
Alison, thank you very much indeed for that. And thanks for telling us all about your love for Salford. Gives me great pleasure now to welcome the Salford Ceremonial Mayor, Councillor Charlie McIntyre. He has a keen interest to support families across a wide range of issues, including poverty, domestic violence, and parental mental health. Please welcome Councillor Charlie McIntyre.
Good evening, can you see me?
We can't see you as yet.
You can hear me?
We can hear you.
Right, well, there you go.
There we are.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to tonight. It was great to get the invitation and to offer a huge thanks from the City of Salford for hosting this Caribbean African Evening, Black History Month evening. And it's great, and thank you for the history that you shared. I remember when the Afro-Caribbean Mental Health Group opened up in the Catholic Centre, and it was a huge value to Cheadle Royal and the people that we were nursing in Cheadle Royal that came from Manchester. But I suppose this year's Black African Month has got a huge reason to feel important about being able to hold it this year because of the difficult times that we have been experiencing. We know that nationally, Black, Asian and other ethnic communities have been really badly touched by the effects of COVID-19 and the numbers of deaths that they have experienced. We know that in Salford that there's a huge amount of our BME community, I beg your pardon, who are working within the frontline services, and they're doing that, their commitment and their love for the work that they do and for the love of the people that they live beside. And I think to be involved or to be invited to this tonight's meeting is a huge honor and a huge, just a huge privilege to be involved in it. I sound really as if, well, I've just been able to log in. I had to phone Magda to get the login details because my diary didn't allow me to log in. So it is with thanks, it is with pride that I have to thank the people that work in our hospitals, although the different risks are higher for the BME and other minority communities in Salford. They're doing that on behalf of Salford community and the council. And so I don't think you can thank them too much for the things that they're doing. I'm just glad to be here tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Charlie McIntyre, thank you very much indeed, sir, for your kind words. Glad you were able to join us. And we have an apology. We're getting this sound every so often, and we have no idea where it's coming from. So apologies if you're hearing that sound, that ping every so often. We're trying our best to get rid of that. Now, we're going to turn our attention to food. And our next presentation is a recording, a video of a traditional dish from Guinea, healthy peanut stew from Guinea. And this is presented to us by the Guinean Association of Greater Manchester, which is a non-profit organization for the Guinean community of Greater Manchester that works to promote and provide social care, recreational and educational activities. And they have provided this very special dish for us.
Called the peanut butter stew. For that, we're going to Hi everyone. Today we're gonna cook some traditional sauce from Guinea called the peanut butter stew. For that, we're going to follow some ingredients. We got 340 grams of peanut butter, some tomato paste. We got 3 fresh of tomatoes, some chili if you like it, some onion. We got 4 Maggies, 1 kilogram of meat, and some sauce. So now we are going to cut them and blend them. So now we are going to boil 110 milliliters of water for our stew sauce. So, and add blended onions and onions. And now we're going to add our meat in the mix. And let it boil for 15 minutes. Now, as you can see, it's time to add our peanut butter. And also, I'm going to add the tomato paste and Maggies. Now I'm going to put the chili on top, 3 grams of salt, and stir. going to cover it and let it cook for 40 minutes. You keep stirring, of course, after every 10 minutes. As you can see, this is a peanut butter sauce ready to be served. You can eat it with rice or couscous. In Guinea, we call it mafe. So this is my present from Guinea to you all. Happy Black History Month. Let's celebrate.
Thank you very much indeed for that. And we're definitely celebrating, make no mistake about that. And apologies that we had some problems with the sound at the start of it. Thankfully, we got it sorted. Thanks for all the messages that are coming through. Some wonderful words about our presentation so far. If time allows, we will get to some of that in a few minutes' time. We have a very special presentation now. This next gentleman is from Salford City Council, representing Langworthy Ward residents. He's a qualified social worker from Salford University. In addition to this, he works for Gateway Refugee Resettlement Program to resettle the most vulnerable refugees from across the world. Please welcome Councillor Wilson Ikarunzizi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm really humbled to be here to talk about Black History Month. I'm not an expert when I was thinking what I'm going to talk about, because there is a lot to talk about Black History Month. I said that I'll divide my speech in two parts. And in the first part, I would like to talk about why it's important to celebrate Black History Month. And in my second part, I would like to reflect on achievement as a city council, opportunities, and some challenges as well. As many people said, we all look forward to improve. So starting with the reason why it is important to celebrate Black Month, it is important that we continually celebrate Black History Month. I would love to see celebrated every day, not only 1 month in the 12 months, but that's a starting point. It's good to celebrate on a continuous basis. And the Black History Month is an opportunity that brings together a lot of different people and a lot of practitioners and communities to celebrate the contribution of Black people in the UK and in the world. I learned a lot when I participate in these activities and they celebrate Black History Month. You meet different people, you learn about different food. We just heard about the Guinea food, and this is all said to celebrate the diversity. So it is important also to celebrate Black History Month because they take time to reflect on success stories, thinking about people like Mandela, people like Martin Luther King, and the many others. And through these stories, we learn about universal stories on how, about perseverance, about playing our part to advance fairness and the social justice, and the fighting for racism, and the fighting for inequalities. Here in Salford, we have celebrated the Black History Month. Since then, I moved to Salford. I've been in Salford about almost 20 years now. And over the years, we've been celebrating, and every year is a learning point for me. Salford now looks, the way I see Salford now, it looks, compared to when I moved to Salford, is like a garden. I'm just taking that analogy, like a garden where there is a beautiful different flowers. So this represented the people of Salford, and a garden looks beautiful when you have got flowers of different colors, and that's how you see the beauty of the garden. So that's how I see Salford now. it looks like the analogy that I'm giving, like a beautiful garden where you have got different flowers. But all of this comes with the flowers need watering and everything. So all this comes with the challenges and the successes. And this is what I wanted to talk about in my next part. And the COVID-19, for instance, has exposed a lot of concern in Black communities. And a lot of reports have shown how, as Black ethnic minorities, how they are affected by this. But I do also recognize it's not only the Black ethnic minorities. We also talk about how the age factor is also another element that we see that people are also affected, and they also disabled people. So all the protected, not all the protected characteristic, but there is a commonalities in between on how COVID-19 has affected the people. And I also see Black History Month is not only for Black people, is for everybody to celebrate the contribution that the people are making and to learn from one another. But this pandemic have shown how people of Salford have worked together to through looking one another, looking after your neighbors, through, for instance, the Spirit of Salford we set up, that has shown how what difference you and we can make in our neighborhoods. Stay in touch, keep in touch services. So there was a lot of work that has been done with the voluntary organizations. So everybody has really come together to make a success. And I'm sure we'll continue to do so, and we will all work together to suppress the virus and to come out as the winners. So essentially, history is shaped by the legacy of the empire, and it also explains why we have got multiculturalism in society here in Salford and in Britain. And this really, when I've been reflecting about it, there is always something that I'm looking to be vocal about it, about teaching the history of the Black people in Britain. It's very, very important, so that our children, everybody who to learn about why it's important to have multiculturalism and how did it happen and all that is very, very important. One other thing that I want to touch on, specific on Salford, is the different services that we have. And I'm ready that are helping refugees, asylum seekers, and the Black ethnic minorities. For instance, we have got the REACH project in Salford Hospital. This is the unique in the Northwest, and I think is only 2 in the country, where they help the Black ethnic minorities to integrate themselves through work and the earnings in their communities. We still face a lot of challenges, mental health challenges because of the COVID-19. But here in Salford, again, we celebrated that we have got a Greater Manchester Mental Health service that is offering a consultation to residents from refugees, from ethnic minorities, to get help that they need to go through the pandemic and the other associated issues. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is opportunities that we all have to make changes in our communities. For instance, here in Salford, we can see that there is greater representations from Black ethnic minorities in different areas, but I'm not saying that that is enough. A lot needs to be done, but what I'm sure of is we are on the right path. When I was looking on the statistics about, for example, counselors, the Black ethnic minorities in Britain represent 14%, but only 7% are from Black ethnic minorities. So there is, again, there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of greater representation in decision-making processes. I just want to come back talking about challenges. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges caused by hostile environment. And this, I can talk about the Windrush situation, which was very unfortunate. And we all needed to work together to make sure that we challenge this. Grenfell Tower, how it has affected the people. We still face anti-immigration sentiment that we all need to work together to challenge. And I'm sure the government has set up Race and the Disparity Commission to deconstruct inequalities. And I'm hoping that each and everyone will be making their contribution to advance equality and the fairness for everybody. Before I finish my speech, I would like to leave you with this quote for our own reflection. And this is from Mandela. It says, "It is in your hands to make a better world for all who lived in it." Once again, thank you for listening, and may God bless our country, and may God bless our great city of Salford. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson Ikarunziza, can I thank you very much indeed for that uplifting presentation. Thank you so much for that. I mentioned this at the start, and we've had apologies from Paul Dennett, the Salford City Mayor. He has had to stay at work because of the COVID decisions that were taken today. So he sends his apologies, but we do have another councillor or a councillor who will join us in a few minutes' time. But first of all, we invited 3 young people to tell us what Black History Month means to them. This was their response.
It's a great time to reflect about all those Black people that were enslaved and not really treated equally to other people. And I think it's great that we have to recognize that so that things like equality has to remain in this country and world, and not things like oppression, for example, apartheid in South Africa. And obviously we don't want that to happen because many Black people died, and it's just great for the world.
I think Black History Month is a great time to celebrate Black people in general and what's happened to Black people, and to also think about the mistakes that people have made from slavery to apartheid to segregation in America. I also think that's a good time to accept Black people as equals in society, and accept that Black history is British history, and that British history is Black history, and that Black people have been in history throughout. Black people have always been in history, and to know that that's a fact.
I think Black History Month is a bit exciting because you get to know how Black people changed history for all Black people. And really, if they weren't there, then life would be very different today.
Okay.
We have to respect this day because Black people weren't treated the same as white people just because we had a darker skin color to other people.
That's true. What else do you know about Black History Month?
I think that Black History Month is a beautiful month because it's the only time where many schools get to focus on Black history. Black History Month is a nice way to experience, well, not to experience, but to know what happened in the past with Black people. Many people have changed the way Black people live today. And it's very important because if they were not there, Black people would never be protected by mankind. And racism I just don't understand why we have it.
Okay.
Just because we're different, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
There should be no room for racism.
Well, if you remember only one thing from tonight, I hope it's that last young gentleman. Prime Minister in the making, in my opinion. As I mentioned, we've got a very special guest who's going to join us now. She's the first Muslim councillor in Salford. She represents the ward of Eccles. Her name is Shamina August. Please welcome Councillor August.
Hi, thank you, everyone, and thank you for putting on this amazing event. As you just heard, I'm Shamina August. I'm a councillor in Salford. I'm also the executive support for equalities, communities and social impact in the mayoral team. So as we've mentioned before, Paul, the city mayor, has had to give his apologies tonight for obvious reasons and all the chaos that is going on with lockdown. But I'm pleased to be able to speak on his behalf, though as was the case with Alison before, I might not be as prepared as I would have hoped. So I'll go into what I think might be Paul's view on this. So Salford City Council has been able to join Salford Clinical Commissioning Group in supporting this event, and it's our privilege to do so. I know my colleague, Councillor Kuranziza, who spoke earlier, was actually able to join in the planning group. I'm also delighted that the photographs in the project Still I Rise, which was started last year, will be displayed this evening. This project showcases Black, Asian and other minority ethnic staff in the public sector and the voluntary groups who serve the residents of Salford. This year, the COVID pandemic has highlighted how much we owe to the staff on the front line, in care, in the NHS and in our council services. We've also been reminded for how many of these staff are Black, Asian or other minority ethnic groups. In the starkest terms, we've also seen the risks that these workers have to take upon themselves during this year and the price their communities have paid. This portrait series is all the more poignant as it reminds us of the people who have given our city so much. We also saw this year protests that spread to the UK after the unlawful death of George Floyd at the hands of the police in America. In Salford, we lit up the main council building in purple on June the 5th, which was done alongside other buildings in Greater Manchester. Myself, the city mayor and many other councillors took the knee outside the city town hall in solidarity with that, and we did it to show our solidarity with not just George Floyd's family and those protesting against racial injustice as well. We know that British society, not just American, needs to become more fair and just, and this begins with recognising racism, inequality and social injustice that currently exist. Black History Month helps shine a line on the injustices of the past which have shaped our current society and the experiences and life chances of Black, Asian and minority ethnic people and communities who are part of Britain today. It is a privilege to be included in marking this month and to be part of focusing attention on all parts of our shared history. I want to take this opportunity to tell you some of the other things that we're doing as a council and a city in response to the current moment. The council, along with other public sector employers, have worked hard to make sure that employees who are working on the front line during the COVID pandemic receive an additional risk assessment to take into account any vulnerability due to their race and ethnicity. Throughout the pandemic, we've been working with local communities to make sure that the messages about public health measures and the assistance available for those in hardship reach people in appropriate ways, but also in appropriate language. The diversity of our city has been highlighted for us, and while it is challenging to make sure we are reaching everyone, it is also great to know that we are working in partnership with all the communities and people who make up our city. We are currently gathering input into an equality strategy for the City of Salford. This will identify some strategic priority areas where we can focus to increase fairness and inclusion. Myself and Councillor Boschel have been working with many partners, a lot of whom are actually on this call, to contribute to the work of identifying these priorities. And I hope they will adopt the strategy once it is completed and identify actions we can take and also ones we can undertake together. At the same time, we are refreshing the Tackling Poverty strategy and launching a strategy on our inclusive economy. Together, these three strategies will help make sure that we do in Salford truly include and make sure it is for the benefit of everyone. Salford is a city set within the city region of Greater Manchester, and we are working with some wider initiatives to tackle inequality. The Greater Manchester Race Equality Panel is being set up and will have an advisory role to the GM Mayor, Andy Burnham. Panel members are being recruited right now to represent Black, Asian and minority ethnic residents to give their experiences and perspectives. I hope to see some really strong representation from Salford when the panel is announced, and I'm sure there will be. The panel identifies recommendations, and as they do so, Salford Council will be looking to play its part in following and implementing these. I'm sure that they will include or even start with a mutually respectful dialogue. So I'm here this evening looking forward to learn more, to see more wonderful art, to see more cooking and all wonderful things, and learn about the history and culture of Salford residents. And I also hope we can learn together how to go forward in our city. So thank you again for letting me speak on behalf of the Mayor. I hope I've done a fair job of representing his views, and I'm not sure that I have filled his shoes, as they're quite large. Thank you.
Councillor August, thank you very much indeed. I couldn't even see his shoes from here. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for that presentation. Let me just read this to you from, I think it looks like Alipole James. It says, young people are the future leaders. It's fantastic that they have a voice in shaping future Black history. And that came in just after the presentation by the three young people before we heard from Sharmina August. Now, our next presentation will display some diversity in healthcare. Dr. Tom Tasker is chair of NHS Salford CCG. With a practice in Salford, is also clinical chair of Salford CCG. So please welcome Dr. Tom Tasker.
Okay, hello everybody, good evening. I only hope that I can speak half as well as the contributors we've had so far, who've been very powerful in terms of what they've said. Sorry I was late joining the meeting. I've been sort of busy with Greater Manchester stuff until 6:30, but I'm really pleased to have been invited to say a few words in terms of what we're doing at the CCG with regards to BAME, health and care. I think the first thing to say is that, you know, we have a significant budget at the CCG in terms of delivering services across health and care for people in Salford. So what I want to do tonight is to pick out some of the key points which will be of relevance to everybody who's on the call. So, of course, as a CCG, we are fully committed to providing equality for our BAME staff and citizens, and just as importantly, to reduce health inequalities that unfortunately we see across our population. It's very important to us to be able to meet the physical and emotional needs of BAME communities. In terms of what we're trying to deliver, of course, we want to provide good access into all services, in particular primary care, and of course, mental health. So if we just pick out a particular service in mental health that we commission, and that's the Beyond service, where people are able to self-refer with low-level anxiety and stress. And this service recognises that some communities are more adversely affected by COVID at present. We invest £1 million per year into the voluntary sector from the CCG, and there is a 5-year commitment there to invest £5 million over that period of time. This investment includes a health impact fund, which is available for community groups to meet the needs of those most impacted by the health inequalities, which very sadly we see evidence with the coronavirus pandemic. And this is a project that looks to meet the needs of those communities, disabilities, poverty, homeless and disadvantaged older people. So just trying to pick out some key projects, key initiatives that hopefully will be of relevance. At the CCG, our approach is to adopt very much an asset-based approach we recognise that the solutions to many of the challenges that we face lie in the communities that we serve. And we look to support them face those challenges with the investments that we make, in particular into the voluntary sector. And can I just take this opportunity to say that we see the voluntary sector in Salford as a key partner in terms of what we're trying to deliver. Without them, we really couldn't have the impact that we would want to. So, big thanks to everybody who's involved in the voluntary and community sector and social enterprises across Salford. And finally, I just wanted to pick out a particular project that is of great interest to us, and that's Women with Wings, which has been running during the pandemic. This has enabled food parcels to be delivered during the pandemic, fortnightly food parcels to families in crisis. This has been a way of trying to reduce the stigma of accessing the food parcel scheme, promoting dignity and reducing crisis. I think it's been a really important lifeline for many families out there, and one that we're very proud of at the CCG in terms of our involvement alongside the volunteers that have worked in that service to develop a quick and responsive and culturally appropriate intervention. So look, thank you very much. There's lots more that I could talk about, but I wanted to be brief because you've got so many exciting people lined up and so many great pieces of media to share. And I thought the three kids who spoke before were absolutely brilliant, and was worth the admission money by itself. So thanks very much to everybody, and take care.
Just before you disappear,
you
said earlier when you started that you've been working on Greater Manchester things.
Yeah.
A thought on where we are now. Are we in tier 3? And what does that mean?
So what I was working on was the future of the Greater Manchester Partnership. So very much about health and social care. And of course, we started the devolution journey in 2016. We've achieved a lot of good things during that time, but we're only part of the way through the journey. The NHS at the moment is going through a period of reorganisation, which I think is unfortunate given the challenges we face around COVID. We're in the middle of a crisis, aren't we? We've got a winter ahead where we've got the normal flu pressures, we've got second wave, we've got the backlog of elective care. So now's not really the time for us to be reorganising, but unfortunately there's a national mandate out. So we want to make sure that we do our best for GM. So we're trying to sort of deliver the second part of the devolution journey. So those are the kind of talks that I've been involved in this afternoon, where I have a role in terms of representing Salford, but I also have some leadership roles in GM, which it enables me to make sure that Salford's well represented in those discussions. In terms of tier 3, my understanding is it's been imposed. They haven't been able to reach an agreement between the politicians and national government. So tier 3 is being imposed from Friday. And at the moment, the financial agreement, from what I can see, isn't where we want it to be. But Boris Johnson has said that the offer is still there to further negotiate, to further discuss. So I'm sure that Andy Burnham, Sir Richard Lees, and the other political leaders, including our own Paul Bennett, will be going back into those discussions, because we have to get the best deal possible, because we're fully aware that there are huge health implications around COVID, but equally there are economic implications. So, if we're going to close businesses down, if we're going to close hospitality down, then we have to protect people, especially those who are on the lowest wages, because 70% of the real living wage is not the real living wage, is it? And you won't be paying 70% of your rent during that period of time. So, our politicians are trying to balance health with the economic challenges, but it has been a very, very difficult last few days in particular.
Dr. Tom Tasker, Chair of NHS Salford CCG, can I say you are the perfect guy to come to talk to us tonight? You see, there's a clap elsewhere. They really, really are. Thank you so much for your presentation and for taking that question at the end as well.
No problem. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Next up, we have a video for you, and I've been really looking forward to this since I got my script. The charity Warm Hut UK was established in 2009 to support French-speaking asylum seekers and refugees living in the Greater Manchester area, especially in Salford. The charity now has a wider remit of helping the local community in Salford and surrounding areas, such as Chatewood, Cheetham Hill. This next clip will talk briefly about pre-colonial history of Africa. I'm really looking forward to this. Some thoughtful stuff there, no doubt about it. And do take the opportunity, as it said at the end of that video, to find out more. I think that's a great way of putting it. In fact, I don't know if you saw the program on BBC television the last few nights about slavery and that whole situation and the diving to find the ships that went down. I haven't seen all of it as yet. I've seen about 3/4 of it. I had to stop there and do other things, but really looking forward to seeing the end of that as well. And now we have a presentation from Edward Vitalis. He's an NHS Salford CCG board lay member and audit committee chair. He will present Still I Rise, which is an exhibition that celebrates Black, Asian, and minority ethnic culture in Salford and tells the stories of some of those working in the city's public and voluntary sectors. Edward Vitalis, please.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody.
Apologies, Edward. I'm
sorry. Okay, yep, I'm ready to go. Thank you very much. So, Still I Rise celebrates Black, Asian, and minority ethnic culture in Salford and tells the stories of some of those working in the city's public and voluntary sectors. The idea for the exhibition came from Salford's Black, Asian, and minority ethnic mental health champions. It celebrates Salford's diverse communities, their contribution to well-being in Salford, and presents role models for the future generations. Working with Salford's Equality Partnership, the champions have co-produced Still I Rise with acclaimed photographer Ali Crew, a University of Salford graduate and one of the winners of the Portrait of Britain 2019 awards. In 2019, 16 portraits and stories were exhibited in Salford's Lowry Art Gallery. A pop-up exhibition also toured the city, visiting partner organisations such as Salford University, Salford City Council, and Salford Royal Hospital. The exhibition was also shared with primary and secondary school children at a special event to recognise Salford Schools of Sanctuary. This year, our vision is that we will share wider with schools virtually, and then next year, we are hoping to take a pop-up exhibition to schools in Salford. This year, a further 13 people have taken part, sharing their powerful personal stories, including hospital staff, volunteers, prison staff, members of the council, and third sector organisations. These individuals share stories to inspire and empower others and offer role models for future generations. On behalf of Salford, I'd like to thank all those involved. I took some time out earlier today to read each of the stories. Each struck a chord and reminded me of why I became involved. Still I Rise is a poem by American civil rights activist and writer Maya Angelou. The poem is an assertion of the dignity and resilience of marginalized people in the face of oppression. Here are a few verses and why I became involved. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I rise. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. This is the first time that this film is being shared. After this event, we're gonna promote it far and wide and would appreciate everybody's help in doing so. Thank you very much.
Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise.
There are times that this world makes me feel smaller than I am. Times when I feel unworthy of the space of which I take and the air which I breathe. Times that I need to remind myself that I, myself, am whole and that no one or nothing can make me feel less than I allow them to. Times I need to remember that I am to be unapologetic of my existence and live with the certainty that I am remarkable. The ocean does not apologize for its depth, and the mountains do not seek forgiveness for the space they take, and so neither shall I.
We were always told to work and become something. This was continually drilled into us, perhaps because my parents knew we had to work harder, as they did, to get somewhere, and prepared us to really stand out and achieve, which meant working harder and consistently doing a lot more than everyone else to deserve a place in society.
I am very much the product of my mother's spirit and energy. From a young age, she taught me to stand up for myself and speak my voice, even if my words are unpopular, even if there is a consequence to speaking out, as long as it is my truth. Through her example, she gave me the permission to be fearless, and as American activist Maggie Kuhn said, to speak your mind even if your voice shakes. Diversity is having a seat at the table. Inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having that voice heard.
My dad was an ice cream seller, having never been given the opportunity to pursue his chosen career because back then he even struggled to get a roof over our heads because of the color bar, let alone get a job with prospects. Those experiences and my ethnicity gave me the opportunity to add something different. It motivated me to work even harder. It drives my passion to support fair opportunities for all.
So when I hear the question, what difference does it make? I can say hand on heart that working towards inclusion is about changing practice in the short term and the culture and experiences for our future generations. Working to make my grandparents and parents proud and pushing forwards for BAME young people.
You may see a man of colour and wonder how I smile in a world of prejudice where people in denial add to the divisions in ignorance that's bliss. Still I rise to unify and change the way it is.
I aim to emulate the dignity and strength and perseverance of my mum, but I also have had some great mentors, black, white, male, female, young and old, who've raised me up when I've been on my arse.
We are products of this distorted world that was created when kindness, justice, and humanity were ignored by you.
What do you see? Imagine a little girl, say 8 years young, making a journey from home to school on a red dust road. Imagine her hopes, dreams, ambitions, inspirations. Imagine the journey she would take in her mind. Now, imagine her making the journey from a small village in Ghana, speaking only her mother tongue, Twi, to mental health nurse, to university lecturer in child and adolescent mental health. Imagine.
I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. Abraham Lincoln.
And still I rise. Beautiful presentation. And as someone who dabbles in photography, there were some truly wonderful images in that presentation. Thank you so much for that. It is going wonderfully well, I have to tell you. I feel so good about this, you would not believe it. Honestly, some real high quality stuff here tonight. We're going to be joined now by Dr. Muna Aziz, who has been Director of Public Health for Salford since January 2019. And previously, she was the Director for Public Health Warrington. Muna is passionate about public health, people development, and win-win opportunities. Dr. Muna Abdel Aziz.
Hello, everyone. So I'm delighted to be here. As the Director of Public Health for Salford, it's really great to join the celebration event for Black History Month and for everything that joins us together in the Black Lives Matter movement. Today is a milestone. Of course, it's a milestone as well for Greater Manchester and COVID regarding the tiers and the restrictions, as history will come to tell. I'm originally from the Sudan, where the Nubian, Ethiopian, and Islamic cultures meet. I came to the UK in 1998 to study, and while I have stayed here, I've also stayed connected with colleagues in Africa and in the Middle East. For me, it has been a journey about education and the principles of good public health and prevention. The guidance that we are following here and anywhere else in the world is the same public health guidance, For COVID, as an example, it's the same virus, just the resources are different. Where we have test, trace, and isolate, other communities are just isolating without a test. Yet with unequal impact, with unequal resources, we know we can only beat this virus together. I think the point of history is to be able to look back and learn the lessons, but also to recognize that today is a part of our future history that we are creating. So for my slot today, I wanted to take a step into the future and look back on where we are and the unprecedented times we are living in today. For one thing, we know that COVID is a threat of a lifetime. It threatens our lives, our livelihoods, but it has also strengthened our humanity. So we will stand in 2030 and look back on our history today. And I'm proud to say that in 2030, when we look back at the time of COVID, we'll know that we recognized and acted on inequality. People felt really angry about Black Lives Matter and the disproportionate impact of COVID on the Black and minority ethnic groups. The 2019 pandemic virus affected us all. It started in one spot in the world and spread into every community everywhere. Here in the UK, the virus got to the Black and ethnic minority groups first, many of whom continued to work during the lockdown and the restrictions. And then by late 2020, when you looked at the cases and deaths, they were among people of white British ethnicity, who we know form the majority of the population. So does this mean that it was a universal virus? No, the challenge is universal, but we still did see the disproportionate impact on people with low-paid jobs or with less resourceful social networks and our frontline key workers, especially those who interact with members of the public like security guards, taxi drivers, health and care workers. In Salford, we offered health checks for all workers, especially those from Black and ethnic minority background, and those with a health condition, or people who didn't know they had high blood pressure or who continued to smoke. Sadly, the inverse care law meant that they were not taken up as well as we would have liked. The offer of health checks, it still kept the inverse care law. It's well known that where people most in need of a service, they are least likely to access it. And this inverse care law has been problematic from the time the NHS was set up, even where we have a service that's free at the point of access. So now in 2030, we have a new normal. It's a new normal way of living, a new normal way of working, one that is kinder to people and kinder to the planet. COVID has forced us to work in new and different ways through the use of technology and to connect with others we had not done before. Through the 6 degrees of separation, we know we're only 6 people away from anyone else in the world. That's the reason why COVID spread in the first place. With new technology and platforms, it means people who are oceans away are in our living rooms in real time. This is a new normal, which is highly dependent on our young people as our champions. It's their future for longer. In the same way that we have seen young people take on the challenge for climate change, they have become the social entrepreneurs and innovators. So back to 2020. I was asked to comment on the priorities for Salford in the future. Salford has some fantastic assets, and at the same time, we know we've got great challenges as the 18th most deprived local authority area in England. We have a strong history of partnership working, and that's really shone through in our response to the COVID pandemic. We recently published the Public Health Annual Report and the Locality Plan for 2020 to 25. You'll find that on the Partners in Salford website. You'll also see the week-by-week data on COVID-19 on the Council website. In Salford today, we have 3 areas where now is the time to act. First, we must continue to protect health and respond to COVID, respond to flu and all the other viruses, especially as we head into winter. We must make sure people who need the NHS access it without the inverse care law. The NHS is open to business as usual. We must make sure that people access the cancer screening programs and take up the offer of vaccines, whether they are for children or for older people. And secondly, the reality of living with COVID in the next 2 years will be about keeping the economy going through restrictions and circuit breakers. It will be about how successful we are rebuilding a new normal for our organizations, for small, medium enterprises, for our schools and all sectors, including health and care. And thirdly, for a better and fairer Salford, our 5-year locality plan, which is the population health plan, recognises that the best solutions can be put in place much faster when they are co-produced with local communities. We are now at the stage where we must embed this culture of co-production, and we must start new and different conversations to create our future history. So do we have all the answers? No, we don't. But we all know that the answer is by coming together. We cannot afford to keep the divisions of race, age, gender, job roles, or any other isms to get in our way. I take this opportunity to invite you as the audience and to everyone else who lives in Salford, whether you're from Black heritage or not, to take up the offer of health checks, because now is the time to act. Thank you.
Dr. Aziz, just one moment before you disappear, please. As a radio presenter, whenever one of my guests says something that I don't know, I ask the question. So please, what is inverse care law?
So that is where you have a service and it's open to everyone. It's meant to be a universal service, but the people it's meant to reach the most because they are in need the most, they're the least likely to access it because there are all those systemic barriers that hold them back. It isn't the offer of a service that's the issue. It's people realizing it's for them. And that's maybe the most fundamental barrier that people face.
Well, Dr. Aziz, can I thank you very much indeed for your presentation and for taking that question at the end as well. All the very best. Now, sometimes you'll see some hair care on television and you'll think, wow, some footballers with funky braids and all kinds of stuff, and wonder, how do they do that? How long does that take? Well, we have a very special presentation for you now, hair braiding from Yemi Hair Boss Boutique, and Aista Emo, who is a Cannes volunteer, and this film has been put together on behalf of that organization. So please take a look at some African hairstyling.
Hi everyone, my name is Yemi, co-founder of Hair Boss Boutique. I'm doing a small piece on Black History Month, and Black History Month to me is not just the history itself, but in my line of work is the history of braiding. Braiding can be traced back to 500 BC. Braid is not just a culture to me, it's also a work of art. You may see that in a few of my work. You may see that on social media, on socialites, on celebrities who emphasize on how braiding makes them look cool, but at the same time, braiding from my background is a protective style, is a form of goddess. There are beautiful Black women who portray such positive and craftsmanship to the art of braid. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Black History Month is to yourself, but this is just my personal view. I've been doing hair since I was a young age, and I'd say roughly around 15 years in experience in Afro hair. And I've gone through going into college and getting my MBQ, getting my diploma, and currently I'm actually teaching hairdressing. And my aim is for my business to become one of the very first Afro hair training academy, which is now open in Manchester. And I'm hoping to include braiding techniques, protective hairstyles, how to maintain your hair, how to look after your hair, how to help your hair grow into a much beautiful Afro locks or relaxed locks. You can see a lot of my work through my Instagram page, which is Hair Boss Boutique Fab on Instagram, Hair Boss Boutique Manchester on Facebook. And I do also have my own lash line, which is Hair Boss Lashes. I know the whole branding, the whole inspiration behind it. It's all down from the kind of Black woman I am. I portray confidence to a lot of my clients, and they are happy and excited to meet me. And I hope that if you guys do come to Manchester, you do come and visit the hair salon as well.
And thank you very much indeed to Hair Boss Boutique for that presentation. We're going to take some poetry now. We have a very special guest, Jay Ahmed, who's a local poet and trustee at Health Watch, who writes on all matters which are concerned with the human condition, often writing poems on race and equality-related issues. He is live with us this evening. Please welcome Jay Ahmed.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here spending the evening with all of you. It's been fantastic, and I've loved every minute of it. I especially loved hearing the voices of the youth. Kind of reminded me of that line from that song in Louis Armstrong's song. I think to myself, what a wonderful world, he said. I see children grow, they'll learn much more than I'll ever know. Yeah, it was beautiful watching that. And I love the artwork as well. It was fantastic, and the powerful words promoting respect and unity from so many who we all know are making hard work and working very hard, on the solutions for this great city to strengthen our community cohesion. So yeah, I've always looked at Salford as a city where the fires of hardship have often tempered the people, making us stronger and more resilient. And I've always felt that there's never anywhere that I've lived where equality has been so high on the agenda. So I know that these are extremely difficult times, especially for those most affected by COVID. But I strongly believe if we all pull together through this, possibly our hardest time, regardless of colour and race, we will come out of this more unified and infinitely stronger. And with that, I want to share the two poems which I've come to share tonight. And those two poems are very dear to my heart. The first one, you might have heard just a little bit of it in the video presented by Edward earlier on. There was a short snippet of it that's called Rise. I will finish with that. It was actually written for the event Still I Rise, inspired by Maya Angelou. But the one I want to start with is called Equality. And I always believe in remedying the situation on a very broad perspective, and I believe the fight for equality is a broader fight and a broader fight we should all be involved in because it affects us all. So with that in mind, I wrote this poem, Equality, the Broader War. Not just about Black politics, the fight for ebony. It's about the wider change we make, not just for you and me. It's all about a leveling towards equality, so everyone is seen for exactly who they be. Equality is not just a word, it stands for something great, a concept that we manifest to free the world of hate. A broader war we fight, for sure, for everyone and all. Why complicate the struggle? We bricks can build a wall of many bricks, many histories that speak of a world that fails to act and lacks humanity. A world we face together, undivided in our quest, strengthened in our joint resolve to fight for what is best. So the next poem I've got for you, this one, I hope you enjoyed that, by the way. The next poem I've got for you is, like I said, the poem that you heard a snippet of earlier on. It's called Rise. It's inspired by Dr. Maya Angelou. And I have to say, I have to thank Amanda, really, who's on this call, for inspiring me to write that, because had she not got me involved in this, then I would never have written that poem, and I would never have fallen in love with Maya Angelou's work again, which I have all over again. I've got to buy a new book of hers. But Yeah, so this is the poem Rise. You may see a man of color and wonder how I smile in a world of prejudice where people in denial add to the divisions in ignorance that's bliss. Still I rise to unify and change the way it is. You may ask me how I do it, where I find the drive in the face of such adversity, why it is I try. I want to answer honestly, I just don't have the time. Too busy making changes. So it is, I rise. To all of those who see me through prejudicial eyes, and those who do not see at all beyond society's lies, does my happiness offend you? Of course, you will deny. Yet still, you are the reason that I proceed to rise. Insult me with your colored views. Beat me with your words. My bludgeoned head will never bow. Such hate is undeserved. Trample me on equal ground. Shove me to the floor. Still I will rise above to rise that little more. For I, the quiet whisper uttered on the boats, rise up now in harmony in these poetic notes. I, the rattle of the shackles that tethered us together, rise as a reminder we're separated never. I, the ravaged motherland, known as home of past, speaking to my people, saying, rise, my people, fast. I, the washed up refugee on the morning beach, plead, hear my spirit speak. Please rise up and defeat the prejudice and hatred that takes our destinies, replaces them with fates that were never meant to be. Elevate to elevate, rise up side by side. We're birds and butterflies that float. Rise, my people, rise. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely magnificent. Can I thank you, Jay, for that presentation? That was just sensational. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
By the way, I'll get your number. We'll talk about coming on the radio and doing that for me. I must mention this. We have a wonderful brochure, okay, of this whole event, and that is now available as a download. It's on the chat on your Zoom links, and all you need to do is press on download, and that will come to your device almost instantly. So that's the brochure, full color brochure, information about everybody that we've had with us today. That is available now. Press download and that will come to you. We now have another very special presentation, a mindfulness exercise by psychologist Dean. Dean is the co-founder and director of Northwest Training and Development Team Pathways Associates. He develops and leads mindfulness programs for people with learning disabilities, people with autism, their families, and workforce. This is the presentation.
Welcome to the Northwest Training and Development Team and Pathways Daily Coronavirus Update. Today's update is from our friend and Pathways Associate Dean Donalds, who shares with us one of the ways that we can look after our well-being while we're at home.
Hi, my name's Dean. A few of our friends and members who are self-advocates and peer advocates with learning disabilities or autism or both. I've asked if I can offer a few mindfulness exercises because they're getting a bit frustrated, angry, sad, having to stay in their house, in their home most of the time because of the coronavirus. So the first mindfulness exercise I'm going to offer is chocolate meditation. If you don't like chocolate, then perhaps use an orange or a banana. And you might need a tissue as well, just to wipe your hands afterwards. Before we start practicing chocolate meditation, it's important to be mindful. Mindfulness is about not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, but just being in the present. So when we're eating our chocolate, we're eating our chocolate. We're not worrying about what happened earlier, and we're not worrying about what might happen in the future. So we come back to our body and our breath to stay in the present. So let's make sure that we're sitting on a chair and we're quite upright. Our shoulders are relaxed. The soles of our feet are firmly on the ground. And we notice our breathing. We notice our in-breath and we notice our out-breath. We don't try to control our breathing, we just follow our breathing. Breathing in, we know we're breathing in, and when we breathe out, we know we're breathing out. We could put a hand on our belly and notice when we breathe in, the belly rises, and when we breathe out, the belly falls. Belly rising, and belly falling when we breathe out. Now we can get our chocolate or fruit and unwrap the chocolate. Notice the sound that it makes. Notice any smells. And then we just break a bit of the chocolate off, or take a segment of the fruit and we pop it on our tongue. We don't chew it. And just let the melt of the chocolate happen. What does it feel like? Does it taste good? Does it not taste good? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it strong? Is it mild? What tastes are there? What other feelings are you getting? Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying it more than if you would perhaps have 3-4 sections of chocolate very quickly and just munch into them? Is it lasting a lot longer? Remember, if your mind wanders off, just bring your attention back to the taste of the fruit or the chocolate. And when it's all gone, can you still taste the chocolate or the fruit in your mouth, even though it's gone? Breathing in, know you're breathing in, and breathing out. know you're breathing out. And I'll close this chocolate meditation with the sound of the bell.
Mike, you're on mute.
Oh, you didn't hear anything that I just said. I was muted. Apologies. Must say thank you for that special presentation to Dean. And what I was saying was that never will I eat chocolate again and not think about that presentation. And apologies for not switching my microphone on. Our next presentation is Dr. Surya Nayak, Senior Lecturer, Social Work and Integrated Practice, Equality and Diversity Lead, School of Health and Society. Surya is a qualified social worker and psychoanalytic psychophysiotherapist. She has over 30 years of practice and training experience within the rape crisis movement, working to confront all forms of violence against women and girls. She has had to set up 2 specific services for Black, Asian, and minoritized ethnic women and girls. Dr. Surya Nayak.
Thank you, Mike. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Sorry, Mike, I didn't realise you had to read that out. I thought it was something just for some brochure. I'm Surya Nayak. I've been working at the University of Salford for the last 20 years. I think when I arrived at the university, I never would believe that I would have stayed that long. And why do I stay? I stay because of Salford. I stay because I believe that education is liberation. And I know that not just from the 20 years that I've been there, but from my own life journey. My own life's journey of leaving school with no qualifications at all, and then progressing through university and through education. I think one clear message I want to give tonight is that the University of Salford is for everybody. It's right there in the middle of Salford, in one of the most socioeconomically poor areas in the whole of Europe. And I've watched over the last 20 years, Salford become more and more and more diverse in terms of its in terms of ethnicity, in terms of different races, in terms of just general diversity. And so what I want to stress, and I'm just going to say this message loud and clear from the outset, is that this is your university. And if you want to come to this university in whatever capacity, knock on the door. And if you're too scared to knock on the door and you're thinking, I don't know anyone, you know, someone will type in my email there and you contact me. That's whether you want to study or whether you want to work there. Yeah. Education is liberation. They say that knowledge is power, and there is a relationship between knowledge and power. But often what happens is knowledge is used in terms of power to squash certain people down, to say your voice is not viable, your accent isn't right, the likes of you shouldn't be going to university. Well, let's reverse that round and say that knowledge empowers. It certainly has for me. There's something that I quote time and time again in my work, and it says that the space and place we inhabit produces us. The space and place we inhabit produces us. What does that mean? It means that it's our context or our environment that makes us who we are. context is crucial. Yeah. Change the context and we can change who we are. I mean, that's what this tonight's about, isn't it? It's about raising awareness. It's about sharing knowledge. But it's also what something like a university can do. It is a fantastic resource there in Salford. And it may be that actually ourselves and the university are not very good at realising that resource and maybe not as innovative as we could be. I think in lots of ways we can be innovative, and I'll give you an example in a short while. But I guess what I'm doing is saying it's your university. You come to us and say, we've got this idea. Yeah. And it's incumbent upon us to respond to that idea. When I'm thinking about in a way that the university can operate in a very community co-production innovative way, what comes to mind, and I know Councillor Wilson is here, is how we have this idea that we've got to reach out to the hard to reach communities. Well, I think that's rubbish. I think that's absolute rubbish. No one's hard to reach. We're just not trying enough. Yeah. So the Salford Forum for Refugees and Asylum Seekers. I'm going back some years now. I think they didn't have a place to meet. I think they were meeting in McDonald's across the road from the university. And through my, as far as what I try to do is I teach out in the community as much as I'm inside the university. I try to get out more than I'm in. And I got to know Wilson, and I got to know Irfan and other members of the Salford Forum for Refugees and Asylum Seekers. And to cut a long story short, instead of us reaching out, they're now residents inside the university. Yeah. So we don't reach out. Yeah, they're inside. And what came to my mind was this idea of not in our backyard. And I thought, no, we're not going back to that. Yeah. So we bring them into our backyard. And I would invite any of you who want to come inside our backyard to approach us, and certainly approach me. And I will certainly advocate for that as well. I've recently become head of equality, diversity and inclusion in the university, in the School of Health and Society, one of the largest schools actually in the country in terms of different disciplines to do with health, social care and society. And over the last 13 weeks, absolutely motivated by not just COVID, but by Black Lives Matter and the impact, I started a weekly Black, Asian and racially minoritized student group. At first we started with 10, 20 students. We've now got 120 students who are members. We meet every week. I'm a great believer in regularity. I'm a great believer in ritual and tradition. So we meet every week. And there are a few things I want to share with you about that, because that's not just the largest Black, Asian and racially minoritized collective. And I call it a collective. I'm not calling it a support group. Yeah. We're not in need of that kind of support because there's something lacking. What we're in need of is solidarity. So we call it a collective group of solidarity. I do believe it's the largest collective student group of solidarity in the country now, just after 13 weeks. And we have a number of messages. One is from the Black feminist Audre Lorde, who says, your silence, our silence, will not protect you. Your silence will not protect you. And so what we do, and just as we are tonight, and hopefully we'll go on doing it, is we bear witness to each other's experiences. And there's something incredibly powerful about giving your testimony and bearing witness. And we also have something we always talk amongst ourselves and inculcate the idea. And I want to share it tonight because I think it's a useful idea. And it comes from Maya Angelou, and I'm hearing her name quite a lot tonight, and it's wonderful. And she says that she is never alone, Because whether she walks into a classroom or an interview or a meeting, or like me, I'm here tonight and I look like I'm alone. But she says we're never alone, because what she does mentally is she brings into the room everyone who's ever inspired her, who's loved her, and who's cared for her. And she mentally brings them into the room. So here now, I might look like I'm on my own. Oh, no, I'm not. There's a whole crowd behind, surrounding me. And so we talk, we share our messages of solidarity and our ways of building each other up. Because what we know is that connection, just like a single thread does not make a sheet, and we know that the most expensive bed sheets are the one with the highest thread count. That's not by accident, yeah? Makes it stronger. The interweaving of the connections makes us stronger. And I was just wanting to leave you with some words, really, two sets of words, one from Martin Luther King, and he says, it really all boils down to this, he said, that all life is interrelated, or I would say intersected. The intersection is greater than 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Yeah, very useful thing to remember that. Yeah. We're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, yeah, tied with a single garment of destiny. So whatever affects me affects you and vice versa. And Ravi Shankar says, where belongness begins, corruption ends. Where belongness begins, corruption ends. Together we are stronger. Yeah. And so what I like to think about is a hospitality, not just across the borders, but a hospitality of thinking as hospitality. And I would say, once again, this is your university. Use it. You are entitled to be in the university. Then a really, really important point was made earlier on, where and I think it was Mike, you asked the question, what's this inverse, whatever it was, I can't remember the term, and it brought to my mind we've got all these things offered to us as if there's an equal playing field of entitlement. It's not an equal playing field of entitlement. Some of us feel more entitled than others. So we've got to go the extra mile. And as a university, we will go the extra mile. So this is your university, yeah?
Oh, I'm afraid we lost your microphone just at the end there, Soraya. That term was inverse care law. I actually wrote it down. So
inverse care law, yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that inspiring presentation as well. And as I said before, I think you can expect a phone call from me for coming on to the radio station as a guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Love it. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Time is moving on. We have a very special presentation now, some music, a musical break. This is Andrew Dennison with a saxophone performance.
I'll see the beat guy.
Denison. Saxophone performance, Jerusalem. And that is just one of the biggest pieces of music in the world at the moment. I don't know if you're on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and all these things. From every corner of the planet, people are sending out videos of them dancing to that piece of music. It is absolutely wonderful. Andrew, inspired choice for you to play the sax too. We now coming very close to the end of events. Going to welcome Councillor Rob Sharp for some closing remarks. Councillor Sharp. Do we not have Councillor Sharp? Looks like if we might not have Councillor Sharp. So if that's the case, let's go on to Lesmond Taylor then from Salford CVS. Lesmond is a development worker at Salford Community Voluntary Sector. He works closely with partners such as Salford City Council and Salford CCG, and is passionate about creating partnerships that build capacity in the sector. He will now do a vote of thanks. Lesmond.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much indeed, Mike. I've just got in from the hospital, so I've missed some of what's gone on this evening, but I've caught lots of the inspirational stuff that's been happening. Really appreciate everybody's contributions this evening to make this such a wonderful occasion here in Salford. Firstly, we want to thank Hilaire and Robert for their piece of music early on. Councillor McLean, the Guinea Association, Councillor Wilson, the three young people who came and gave their meanings about Black History Month, to Paul Dennett, Tom Tasker, Warm Hut, to Edward for that piece that he introduced us to. That showed us all of the individuals from across Salford who've contributed to Salford being what it is today. To Dr. Muna, to Salford Mind, to Jay Ahmed. That was some beautiful poetry from Jay. Mike, if you want to speak to Jay, you need to go through me. We'll talk later. Also, to Dr. Soraya for those inspirational words that she gave to us all before. And as everybody's just heard, the beautiful piece of music, Jerusalem from Andrew Denison. And as Mike said, that's sweeping across the world right now with a little bit of a move to the music as well. There's a dance that goes with the music. More than anything, we really want to thank our hosts, Khan, for the excellent work that they've done behind the scenes in pulling all of this together tonight. And for inspiring people along the way. And we hope that this event will grow from strength to strength. What can I say about your host for the evening? My good friend, Mr. Mike Shaft. He's always on point. He's always probing. He's always asking the questions, the uncomfortable questions from time to time, but he means you no harm. So, Mike, we just want to thank you for, as ever, for supporting the communities right across Manchester, and we appreciate all the good work that you're doing. But thanks to everybody who's online tonight. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for all the contributions, and I'm hoping that this event will grow from strength to strength. Thank you very much indeed.
Lesmond, before you go, can I just say this? If your cut's more than 10%, I'm not interested. Thank you very much indeed, sir, and thanks for that vote of thanks. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes events for today. And we were supposed to finish at 8. I'm really sorry, but we have. So there you are. We've got some steel band music to take us out, but can I say thank you to you if you're involved and helped in any way to make this happen. It has been a truly wonderful event. Bits of it have been inspiring. And that is what this is all about. Thank you, and a very, very good evening to you. sometimes women use fabric to communicate to their husbands, especially when they are in polygynous or polygamous relationship. A lady will go and buy fabric that is called wafamingwa.
It's a protein, shellfish called snail. It's have its own way, Anytime the fish, I'll say it's inside the shell. So if you want to take it out, when it comes out, maybe, see the atmosphere, they just pick it out, you see. So they say, you've taken me out like a snail.
Which literally means you don't even see my value as a wife. So they wear this to communicate to their husband.
ABC Wax is the only wax print and design company in Manchester, England that has survived from the Industrial Revolution till date. Their designs, motif, and vibrancy of colors are unique and exquisite to the West African people and diaspora.
I originally started work with ABC in Manchester in 1975 on the 1st of September. So almost 40 years tomorrow. And it was my first introduction at that time to African wax prints and African textiles in general. And since then, I spent a lot of time with ABC and also with some of their distributors. And then in 1993, I went to work for them in Nigeria. And in 2000, I came to work here in Ghana.
I didn't know ABC was even outside Ghana until I came to Manchester. And I got to know that it all started from Manchester some years back. And it got to a time that they decided to send it down to Ghana. So that's how Akosombo Textile Limited came about. And it's a very popular textile company. And I was proud to know that it's from Manchester.
When I originally joined ABC, they had their head office was in Manchester on Sharp Street, just off Rochdale Road, and near to Shude Hill, just so that people who know Manchester will know roughly where it was. But the factory was in fact not in Manchester, but in Hyde. But Manchester plays an important part, not only because of where our office was, but also because of its long history of textiles and particularly cotton. Many of the cotton traders were based in Manchester for many, many years. And because of that, a lot of the textile converters, or if you like, traders, trading companies, grew up in Manchester. And it's from those individual trading companies that an association called the Calico Printers Association was formed. And eventually that became Tutal Textiles, and ABC has been an important part of that for many years.
Yeah, when I worked, I think, I forget the time, it's a long time ago, this is 79, for a short period of time. And I think after that, the factory was struggling because we got redundancy as well from that place. And the factory been struggling to continue with the competition of other place, which is in Holland. They bring also the African textile to them. So it was a very, very high competition. They produced the factory at that time in a very, very expensive, but in a very, very good quality. compared to the Holland one, you know. So this is how I mean, at that time, even it's not called ABC Wax. It used to be a wax factory, print factory in Hyde.
I'm walking to the archive store of the ABC Wax print here in Heights in Manchester. As you can see, the vast arrays of textile produced over the years from 1900 to the current day. But where we are now is where the archives of this West African wax print have been stored.
ABC Wax are a unique company, providing a rich heritage of Manchester's wax print trade with Akosombo Textiles Limited in Ghana, West Africa. An experienced textile designer at ABC Wax in Hyde, Manchester, will create a design either from an individual inspiration or commissioned work, and upon approval by management and client, the design is sent to Akosombo Textile Limited in Ghana.